All right, so tell me your name, and then go ahead and start from the beginning of what you just told me.
Okay. My name's Thomas Dean, and I had an encounter in Pomaroy, Washington at a stocked fishing lake. I was fishing at the front of the lake near the parking lot and decided to go to the back end and had to walk entirely around, about 2/3 around the lake the way the trail went. And within about a minute or two of walking, I realized that I was being stalked. My mind slowed down. I thought for a minute it was a buck, then an elk, then a cougar, and all these things, as quick as I could think of them, didn't add up. None of it made sense. And by the time I got about 2/3, 3/4 of the way of the walk I had to make, I was taken. And when I came to, something was disappearing into the grass. And I believe that it was what is referred to as a spider crawl, because I was jumping up and down trying to see, and I couldn't see anything. And while I was still, the best word I could use is in a trance, it was communicated with me that if I took my shoes off and went with whatever being was talking to me, that I would have everything that is desirable about humankind and nothing that I didn't want. None of the drama, none of the crap. And at that point, once I realized I couldn't get a visual of whatever had just communicated with me and whatever had caused all this to happen or taken me, I walked back to where I had been taken, and my fishing pole and my tackle box were right there where I left them. And I went back to my buddy's car, and he informed me that I had been gone for an hour and a half. Well, the walk that I was taking should have taken about 10 or 12 minutes. And I can't account for any of the rest of that time. And it was made clear to me that this being's name was Bobby, or is Bobby. And I believe that that wasn't my first interaction with Bobby. About 7 years, maybe 8 years before that, on my first trip to that area, I was going to camp with friends, and we showed up pretty late in the night. It was already dark. And my friend stopped the car just short of the camping areas, and I got out and shooed something away. And as soon as I got in the car, I said, "That's the ugliest fucking dog I ever seen." And my friends all laughed, and they said, "That wasn't a dog, that was a bear." And as much as I wasn't sure it was a dog, when they said it was a bear, I knew it wasn't a bear. And I believe that was Bobby as a juvenile on all fours. And since this encounter, I've had some mind speak with Bobby, and Bobby's informed me that if I go to Cougar, Washington at any time, he'll meet me there. And yeah, I look forward to making that trip.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the first time that you said that you were coming into the camp with your friends, that's in the same area as your last sighting, right?
Right.
Or your experience
The
there.
fishing lake and where this happened are off of the same road. So within a few miles, or within a mile even.
Okay, and also you said that was around Natchez?
No, this was in Pomeroy,
Oh,
Washington.
Pomeroy, okay, yeah. At one point you were talking to me about Natchez, and so I'm kind of curious about that again, if you could.
I was just explaining that I believe Cougar's a bit further up the scenic bypass highway, more rural than Natchez.
Okay, yeah, so I have some things that I'm interested in about that area too. Okay, so now with your encounter, I would like to ask you what you believe you encountered, or better yet, if you think it's a Sasquatch, what do you believe that it is? I mean, what do you believe a Sasquatch is, according to what you encountered?
I tend to lean towards the Nephilim. And one thing I left out is that what eliminated, or what led me to believe when I was being stalked that it was these different creatures, was this being mimicking those creatures. So when I thought it was a buck, I was hearing snorting and different things that sounded like a buck. And when I thought it was an elk, I was hearing things that would be like a buck deer. And so...
Okay, so would you lean towards like alien? Well, you said Nephilim.
I don't think alien, but I definitely think that these beings are interdimensional.
Okay.
100%. And I believe that a lot of the things that they do, like I believe that the being was in front of me, but I believe that it was cloaking. And the way that I would explain that cloaking works, it might not work with this pencil, but if you take a regular pencil and you go like this, at some point you can see through it.
Looks flexible.
Yeah, it looks flexible, and you can still see the picture behind it at the right movement, right? And I believe that the way that they do this cloaking is that they have a frequency that they're able to vibrate at that allows them to all but be invisible. And
so you wouldn't lean towards the ability to blend in naturally or anything like that? Like maybe, for instance, like covering himself in moss, tree moss or something like that?
no, I completely believe that. And I also believe that a lot of the things that people consider to be supernatural are just highly developed ways of being because of how these creatures live. I believe that they're brought up and that they're naturally capable of stealth, and that they're also taught and trained how to perfect these skills. And the way, as naturally as people do everything we do, these things that most people believe are supernatural are just things that they've honed in on and that they know how to do because that's what they do. I also believe that Sasquatch travel great distances. A lot of people believe that they stay in one place. Bobby telling me that he'll meet me in Cougar at any time. When you look at maps of like Washington State or all sorts of places, it's as simple as when a deer's in a field, it could be 30 feet from you, and there could be, you know, just a low point in the ground and some decent tall grass, and you won't see that deer 30 feet from you, right? It's like that, but on a higher scale. I believe that they traverse the hills and the mountains all throughout this state, and they use them as a highway.
I have evidence of that. I'll show you some pictures. So then this too, I was thinking, so you were out at a stocked lake. Is this thing deep in the forest, or is it pretty public, or?
Oh, it's very public, and
Okay.
it's close to the road. I don't think that these things have to be far out, like a lot of people do. I believe that much like somebody that wants to not be found, like a fugitive, I believe that these, but on a whole nother level, these creatures have the ability to be right up close to people whenever they want, and only be seen when they want to be seen. When you look into like bushes and just a foot or two in, it's dark, they can be concealed a foot or two from you, and you wouldn't know unless they want you to know.
Okay, how about this then? So, do you believe that they attend, well, you said that they travel distances, so I believe that also. But I also believe that they take residency in certain areas at certain times and seasons, and the reasoning behind that is because of food sources and water sources. which means that it's a physical thing also. It has to drink water, it has to eat, obviously has to breathe air. So do you believe that all of it is the same, or do you believe that there may be different things out there in the woods, or compared to what you seen?
I definitely, okay, so it kind of comes back to what I said about their abilities. A lot of people, because they're so uncharacteristic of humans and so beyond our imaginations, we assume that they're supernatural. When to Sasquatch, it is natural. It's their natural way of being. Yes, I do believe 100% that they're physical beings. I believe that there's a high probability, and this is where the alien thing comes in, that if there is government or alien entities that want to spy or not be known, that presenting themselves as a Sasquatch, which is already in most people's mind a ludicrous idea, is a great way to go about it. And so I do think that a lot of bad things happen and get blamed on Sasquatch when it's not actually a Sasquatch being.
I kind of believe that there are some beings out there that could be mistaken for Sasquatch, but I also know that a lot of evidence that I have found is pretty much just basically physical. So, do you believe that there could be different levels of intelligence, meaning, like, for instance, what you've encountered is a pretty intelligent, has more knowledge than the natural, which would mean the difference between technology and just a natural woods person?
I think there's a high probability that these beings have already been cloned, for one thing. Either by the government or aliens, or, yeah, probably one of the two. But I very much believe that they're a physical being, and I believe that they breathe air and that they eat food and drink water and on and on.
So I was interested in what you said at first, spider crawl. Now that ain't the first time that I have actually heard that. One of the last times I heard that was when this thing actually dropped down to all four and started a spider crawl up a very steep hill, even backwards. So.
Well, I think that my memories tried to push this away, because I didn't get to talk about it a lot at first and things. But I think when I first came to, I think it was a bit sooner, within split seconds of what I fully remember, which is seeing the bushes, the grass and the cattails part. I believe that I probably did see it, that whatever trance I was in, it removed from me and I was able to see it go down. Because when I've heard that from other people, it more than resonates. It almost brings, I can almost see it in my head as having happened. And as far as the supernatural abilities too, I believe Sasquatch, as much as they resemble a big hairy man, a huge hairy man, they're built different. The way their legs are built, the way their arms are built, the way their bones connect, and on and on and on. And so the way they move is much, much more fluid. I don't think a human being's capable of replicating it on any scale. Either.
Well, okay, so let me just ask this a little bit last here and I'll be done. So now with your experience, you seem not to have any fear, and do you think that this is going to keep you out of the deep woods, like if you're alone or anything like that, or does this make you more curious, or how are you viewing this? You think, okay, it was a one-time account and so let it be, or want to see some more?
No, so it's a bit of all those things. I've had some reluctancy, and I definitely am much more aware, not that it would matter, not that there's anything I could do if one of these beings wanted to take me again or confront me or encounter me, because I don't believe you encounter a Sasquatch. I believe it's Sasquatch chooses to encounter you.
I kind of agree with that.
And so anyways, I have had some reluctancy to go meet Bobby and Cougar. Yeah. And I just think that it's kind of like you can't unhear something, you know, and you can't forget something as much as you want, especially something traumatic. And when I say traumatic, it's not necessarily a negative. It was just such an unbelievable incident that now when I'm in the woods, I believe that I'm more aware. And so I'm more apt to seeing these things because I know they exist. And I'm aware of how they go about stalking and how they hide and on and on.
Well, have you ever encountered like UFOs or anything like that, or orbs?
Okay, so in Natchez, my wife and I saw a pterodactyl. So I would say, aside from this, that's about the most far out thing that's happened to me. And that was in...
I don't think you're the only one that's reported pterodactyl.
No, not at all. I started looking into it because that day, at first glance, I wanted to tell myself it was some sort of huge inflatable swan. And then I did a double take and I'm just like, huh? And then I nudged my wife and she looked and we're just like, whoa. And I'm trying to recall the... It's the big lake there in Natchez. I can't recall the name right now.
Bumping?
No, not Bumping. It's the bigger one. I want to say it's Rock something. Man, I can't believe the name's slipping me.
I don't know the area that well, but I know of Natchez and Bumping Lake, and I've had some reports about that.
And one thing that I've definitely encountered again since I've been in the woods, I haven't had a sighting or anything, but while camping, I know that these beings have been close because they've mimicked noises a lot. And you don't have to be that hip to knowing things to just pay attention. And it sounds like you'll hear, let's say, an owl, and it sounds like the best impersonation a person could do of an owl. But when you listen, there's no doubt that it's not an owl.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that before. I've heard it blend from an owl into a crow caw.
Well,
not in life. I mean, not personally, but I have heard a mimic of a howl, a wolf howl, and I've heard a whoop.
I've heard noises similar to the samurai chatter, and also after this incident, for some reason, an odd thing stuck in my head, and it was arf, arf, ribbit, ribbit, oink, oink. And that's really weird, but it was like, it just kind of resonates with me as to what the whole stalking incident and it mimicking all these different animals, because it was like it was making noises just to mess with me, to throw me off. And I almost feel that it had to get me in some sort of state to be able to do this mentally.
Okay, well, that leads me to this then. A lot of people believe that they may have met a Squatch in their earlier days and then later on came across the same Squatch, or believe that it could have been as if that Squatch remembered them or something. Do you feel like
100%. I believe that the first time I went to Pomaroy and got out of the car, I believe that was Bobby as a juvenile on all fours. And through, for a lack of better terms, the mind speak and the communication that he's had with me since, that's what I believe. I believe that that was him, and that I think that without all the distractions we have and the way that they live, combined with what they are as a being, that they have recall of smell and memory, and I think that their sense of smell alone is probably so good that he knew that it was me just based on the smell of my sweat. And it's probably as unique as my fingerprint. You know, we couldn't identify it, but I'm sure he could. And all it took was for me to be a little bit downwind of him, and he probably came running.
Well, think of it how most animals, well, dogs really, they remember each other by scent, or
Yeah.
they always sniff each other. So, okay, well, thank you very much. I will let you and James talk now, and I will use this for my page, Chuila Sam Squancher.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.